Hey everyone, RogueGold here, and today I want to talk a bit more about the Division 2's new upcoming DLC. Now that we're a little bit into Year 5 Season 1, things have settled somewhat, I wanted to go back and properly discuss the bombshell piece of info we got right as the update was releasing. The fact that we're getting a new DLC was confirmed to us back during Division Day, but it was during the Year 5 Season 1 reveal stream, right before the update kicked off, that Massive confirmed to us that this new DLC will be set in Brooklyn, New York. This had been probably the most popular theory for this new content, given the hint of showing the Brooklyn Bridge in the Year 5 roadmap, but up until now, we couldn't know for certain. But now that we do, however, I wanted to take the time to fully lay out everything we know, and with the confirmation of the location, theorize on exactly what kind of content we might see, including the size and scope of the DLC, the story premise, everything. So hopefully that sounds good. If you end up enjoying the video, a like would be immensely appreciated, and be sure to click that subscribe button as well as turning on the notification bell so that you don't miss out on future speculation, news, and coverage of this upcoming DLC and everything regarding the Division 2. With that said, let's get into it. Before we dive into my own thoughts and theories on this, let me just quickly recap all of the confirmed information we have about this DLC so that everybody is on the same page. This new Division 2 DLC is releasing in Year 5 Season 4, which roughly puts it at March of 2024. It will take place in Brooklyn, New York, and it will feature new open world zones and new main missions, at least that's what we know of so far. And also noteworthy to mention is that it will be smaller than the Warlords of New York expansion we got for the game. Yannick, the game's creative director, confirmed this in an interview and said that that is why they're referring to it as a DLC and not another expansion. One big question mark remaining is whether or not this DLC will be paid content. I think it's very likely that it will be, but when asked the question, the developers have said no comment for now. So that is everything that we know for certain. Not a ton, but enough to give us a rough picture of what to expect. Kicking off some of the speculation and discussion here, Brooklyn is significant to the Division world for one primary reason, that being that it is the very first place any of us ever explored within the Division universe. If you never played the original Division, you might not know, but Brooklyn was in fact that tutorial and starting area for the game, and it's what you've been watching in the background this entire time. So this has led to many to speculate that we will, at least in some part, be able to return to this particular section of Brooklyn that we saw in the Division 1, and I would agree that that is probably likely. Here is a look at the total area for this Brooklyn zone that we saw in the Division 1, and what immediately stood out to me upon revisiting here is the size of it. It's definitely smaller than any other open world zone that we have across all of the Division 2, just hosting a few side missions, one main mission, and a safe house. I've seen some, whether they're joking or not, say, oh, this new DLC is probably just going to be this zone that we had back during the Division 1. I think we can pretty safely say that that won't be the case. The Division Day presenter was clear to emphasize that this DLC would be delivering open world zones, plural, and main missions, plural, and I think at most you could call this original Brooklyn Zone 1 open world zone, although like I said, it would probably be the game's new smallest one. As far as the actual scope of content that we'll see, my prediction for now, basing off of what we've heard, is that we will receive a replication of this original Brooklyn area from the Division 1, modernized and revamped to fit the season and time period of Division 2, as well as maybe 2 brand new additional zones. Yannick said that this DLC would be smaller than WONI, and while that's not terribly surprising given their constraints and resources available, you still have to figure that if they're going to charge for this content like I think they will, then it can't just be, 4x4 city blocks. No, they need to actually have a good chunk of new areas to explore. My guess is that his comments are referencing the total package of the WONI expansion rather than the physical size of the new areas and content. Meaning, this DLC isn't likely to deliver a level cap increase, a gear rebalance, tons of new exotics, a new progression system, right? All of those things and more were what WONI delivered to give it that title of an expansion. And my guess is that while this Brooklyn DLC won't feature quite as much open world area as Warlords did, it will still be sizable, and that those new zones and new missions are likely to be the primary draw and offerings of the DLC. So that is my guess, is that we get a new and improved version of the old Division 1 Brooklyn zone, plus 2 brand new sizable ones to explore. While this has not been confirmed, I assume that we can expect these zones to bring similar offerings to other open world content in the Division 2, meaning new control points to fight at, having these zones be populated with the usual open world activities, but as far as the other confirmed content for this new main missions, it's hard to say. I think we can probably expect 3 or 4, again pinning it as not quite as large as WONI, but still sizable in its own regard, so we'll likely see one mission within each new zone, plus maybe one final one that's at an off-site location like Liberty Island was for Warlords. That's primarily what I'm expecting here as far as content for this DLC. I think the main appeal will be the physical new places to explore, the new main missions to experience, rather than a host of new items, systems, etc. We do know that we're getting some of this to a degree in the same update with Seasons 2.0, the redesigned endgame experience. We've heard that that is bringing stuff like a new item type to the game for us to be able to farm for, a rethinking of every major endgame activity's incentives and rewards. But at least from the way they have worded it, it sounds to me like all of that stuff will be more tied in with the Season 4 aspect of this update rather than the actual DLC, making it free for all players and not locked in with this new paid DLC, which again, we don't know it's paid, that's my own assumption, and I could totally be wrong there. Maybe all of these big new sweeping changes will be tied in with the DLC, but again, given Yannick's comments about its size, given how they worded things on Division Day and since then, I'm just not so sure. That leaves the question of, well, what can we expect the story of this DLC to actually be? And it's interesting because I think this could go either way. If this DLC does not include the new season system, the endgame revamp, etc., and there isn't a level cap increase, will this be a mandatory purchase if you want to continue to have access to future Division 2 content the way that Warlords is? Or because they're classifying it as a DLC instead of an expansion, could that mean that it's truly going to be optional content and it really only gives you new areas to explore if you so want them? That's the main thing I'm hung up on, because if this DLC is more optional in terms of the game's features and content, then I don't know if they would tie the game's center story into that. Additionally, back when people were speculating about this taking place in Brooklyn, my thought was, okay, that could be true, but why Brooklyn? By that point in the story, wouldn't we be closer to, like, attacking the Black Tusk headquarters or fighting somewhere more directly tied to the current story? There's also the fact that this DLC comes alongside Season 4 at the end of a year of content. How does that work? Are you forced to play the DLC before you can access Season 4? Are their stories linked? Are they completely disconnected? Are they even two different things? I think there's just a lot of unknowns right now that leave some of that more ambiguous. At the end of the day, they could absolutely and likely will find a way to tie it all into the current story. I think that makes the most sense, but the possibility does exist that this DLC could feature a completely standalone story with new characters and villains that are just present for this one experience. That is more traditionally what a DLC is, but we'll see. Could go either way, and I just wanted to throw that idea out there. My friends, that is about all I have to share with you for now regarding my own thoughts and speculation about this upcoming Division 2 DLC. I honestly had a lot of fun making this, even in my short time running back through Brooklyn for this footage. It got me really amped up for this new content that we're going to be receiving. Of course, projects like Heartland are promising even vaster new corners of the Division world to explore, but nothing beats a good old DLC, and I'm really excited to have basically a third map in the Division 2, with its own landmarks, control points. It's gonna be rad. That day one experience will be epic. But for now, that's all I've got. Please do let me know any and all of your thoughts on the subject down below. What are your predictions on what the scope of this DLC will really be, and how do you see them tying the whole thing into the larger game in terms of whether it could be a mandatory purchase to receive future content or not? Whatever you're thinking, spill it all down below, and as always, I look forward to reading through it. And that's all I've got for you today, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. RogueGold. Out.